My name is Emily Carter. I am 29 years old and I live in Seattle. The message lit up my phone like a verdict. We've decided to cut ties. Don't show up anywhere, ever. No explanation, no warning, no context. It was sent from my dad's number as if a lifetime of loyalty could be dismissed in one sentence. 5 minutes later, my sister reacted to it with a little red heart, like she was cheering from the sidelines. I stared at the screen, waiting for something that made sense, but nothing came. It was like being erased from my own family with the tap of a thumb. I didn't cry, I didn't even get angry. I typed one line back, "I'll pull my name from all loans tomorrow." Then I put the phone down. That was all it took for years of silence to detonate. By midnight, the group chat was exploding with all caps messages. Mom accusing me of betrayal. Dad calling me manipulative. My sister throwing in half-truths like she was still in high school, stirring cafeteria drama. But not one of them mentioned the truth, that for years I had been the one holding the financial roof over their heads. Before I continue the story, I really want to know where on this beautiful planet you're listening from. Leave a comment for me. Don't forget to subscribe. One small bit of support from you is huge motivation to keep making better videos. Thank you for being here and listening to this story. That night, I sat in the break room at work, scrolling past emails while their arguments filled my phone. My hands didn't even shake. I had been preparing for this for months, maybe years. The second car they put in my name until Mom's credit improved. The business loan Dad defaulted on that the bank kept hounding me about. The house utilities that magically fell into my lap because they were always investing in the future. I carried it all while they criticized my career, my boyfriend, the way I lived. I had become their backup plan, their walking credit score. And now, with one message, they were pretending I was disposable. The irony was almost funny. They thought cutting me off would scare me into crawling back. Instead, it pushed me to finally act. I opened my laptop and began gathering documents, bank statements, insurance policies, loan agreements. I highlighted every line with my name on it. I drafted emails to the bank, to the credit union, to the insurance company. Each one was clear: remove me, cancel, transfer, close. I didn't send them yet, but they were ready. When I finished, I looked around my small apartment. I had already started moving my personal belongings months ago into a storage unit they didn't know about. I had sensed the storm coming back during Thanksgiving when Dad screamed because I missed dinner to work overtime. That was when I realized I needed to protect myself, to build an exit. Now the exit was here. It was midnight and the family group chat was still burning. My phone buzzed so much it slid off the table. But I wasn't panicking. For the first time, I felt strangely calm. I knew exactly what tomorrow would bring. I would walk into the bank with my folder of documents, sit across from the loan officer, and begin cutting every tie they thought would hold me forever. And once I started, there would be no turning back. The receipts I kept weren't memories. They were proof that for years I had been more useful to my family as a credit score than as a daughter. It wasn't just one favor, it was a pattern. Dad's short-term business loan that stretched on for years. Mom's second car, supposedly temporary, signed under my name. The utilities I covered when they said they were investing in the future. Every page of paper showed the same story, me bailing them out while they criticized the way I lived. I used to wonder if maybe I was exaggerating. Maybe every family leaned on each other like this. But then Mom slipped. One night during an argument, she shouted that the business credit card had been frozen. She froze too, like she'd said something she wasn't supposed to. That was the moment I realized it wasn't just leaning, it was collapsing, and I was the beam they had nailed everything onto. And then my sister made it public. The next morning, my phone buzzed with screenshots. She had gone on Facebook typing out paragraphs about me. Emily abandoned her family after everything we've done for her. She doesn't care if we lose the house. She even wrote, "It's sad when money makes someone heartless." Within hours, neighbors, relatives, even old classmates were chiming in. People I hadn't spoken to in years were leaving comments about how tragic it was that I'd forgotten my blood. None of them asked me what really happened. None of them knew that for 6 straight years I had been the only thing keeping the lights on. They just saw her drama and believed it. For a second, I wanted to fire back. My laptop was already open, and the stack of receipts sat beside me. I could have posted screenshots, invoices, bank transfers. I could have ripped apart her lies in public. But that would have kept me in their game. And I was done playing. Instead, I did something quieter, stronger. I pulled up the draft email to my bank. My cursor hovered for a moment, and then I attached every document: loan numbers, insurance policy IDs, co-signed contracts. I made it impossible for anyone to ignore. Then I added one last line at the bottom: please confirm in writing that my name will be removed effective immediately. I stared at it once more. Years of being their safety net, condensed into one message. My chest tightened, not with fear, but with clarity. I hit send. The moment the email left my screen, the shouting from their side no longer mattered. They could smear me on social media, spin stories to the neighbors, cry about betrayal all they wanted, but the paperwork was moving, and paper doesn't lie. I leaned back, phone still buzzing on the table, and let the noise pass me by. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting. I was acting. And tomorrow, when the bank answered, my family would finally see what it looked like when the safety net cut itself free. The next morning, I carried a folder thick with documents into the bank. My chest felt steady, almost calm, like I'd already lived this moment 100 times in my head. The loan officer scanned the first page. His brow lifted when he saw the stack of accounts under my name: business loans, cars, insurance, credit lines. He asked if I was sure. I slid the folder forward, every signature line already highlighted. Yes, remove me from all of them. He hesitated, then stamped the first page. One by one, ties I had carried for years were cut. With every thud of his stamp, I felt lighter. By the end, the folder was thinner, but the air around me heavier. I walked outside, phone buzzing in my bag. First a text from Dad: "This has gone too far." Then Mom: "You're our daughter. You can't abandon us like this." And finally, my sister: "Without your credit, they can't refinance. Are you proud of yourself?" I didn't answer, not one word. I reached my car in the lot, slid the key into the ignition, and turned. The engine sputtered like it was choking. A warning light blinked red on the dash. My pulse jumped. Something was wrong. I cut the engine and stepped out, dialing the mechanic down the block. He came quickly, leaned over the hood, then crouched beneath the car with a flashlight. When he stood up, his face was pale. "Your brake line's been sliced," he said flatly. "Clean cut. Someone did this on purpose." The world tilted. My throat closed at the thought of merging onto the freeway and pressing a pedal that would never respond. I called the police. An officer showed up, snapped photos, took a report. "Anyone who might want to hurt you?" he asked. I gave him the short version. "Family? Finances? The timing's not a coincidence." He didn't argue. Just wrote it down and handed me a copy of the report. Back inside the shop, my phone lit again. Another text. This one from my sister. "Drive safe. Wouldn't want anything to happen." A smirking emoji followed. I froze. My hands shook, not from fear, but from fury. She didn't even bother hiding it. She wanted me rattled, second-guessing every step. Instead, I took screenshots, saved them, printed them. I stacked the police report, the mechanic's statement, and my sister's message together in my folder. If they wanted a war of evidence, I was building an arsenal. That night, I checked the security cameras from my apartment building. The hours covering the parking lot were missing, deleted clean like someone had reached in and erased time itself. For the first time, I understood exactly how far they were willing to go. It wasn't just guilt, it wasn't just pressure, it was sabotage. I shut my laptop exhaled slowly, and told myself the same thing I had told the loan officer. Yes, remove me from all of it. Because if they thought cutting my brakes would stop me, they had no idea how far I was willing to go to finally be free. My mom arrived at work holding a folder like a weapon. She didn't stop at reception, didn't ask permission. She marched into the lobby like she owned the place. My manager flagged me down, whispering that a woman was waiting, looked polite but intense. I already knew. She stood the moment I walked in. "Emily," she said, voice sharp with fake sweetness, "we need to talk." "This isn't the place," I told her, but she shoved the folder against my chest. Papers spilled out across the lobby couch. Loan agreements, tax returns, even old credit card statements. "You're not finished," she hissed. "A lawyer told us there are loopholes. You can't just walk away. You still owe us." I picked up one page and froze. It was an invoice with my name on it, but the date was wrong, and the signature wasn't mine. The writing was clumsy, like a bad imitation. "You forged this," I said quietly. Her face didn't move. "Call it what you want. You're part of this family and you're not going to shame us by running. You will come home and fix this." "No," I said. My voice carried through the lobby. Heads turned. "I'm not your safety net anymore." Her jaw tightened, and for a split second the mask slipped. "Then you'll regret it." She gathered the papers with shaking hands and stormed out, heels snapping against the tile. I thought it was over. Until 2 hours later, my manager asked me into his office. He closed the door and slid his laptop across the desk. On the screen was an email from my dad. It was long, rambling, written like a character reference turned upside down. He told my boss that I was unstable, reckless, lashing out, that I was not fit to be trusted with responsibility. He ended it with a warning that I was on the verge of a breakdown. For a moment, my stomach dropped. My job was the one thing they had never touched, and now they were dragging it into the fire. My manager leaned back. "I don't believe this," he said, "but I need to ask. Do you need time off? Should I be worried?" Heat rushed up my neck, but I kept my voice steady. "No, this is manipulation. My family is retaliating because I cut financial ties. They want to smear me, and now they're using my career." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "All right. I'll document this. But I need you to understand, if they contact the company again, HR gets involved." I walked out shaking, not from fear, but from fury. They hadn't just attacked me. They'd come for the life I built outside them. That evening, as I packed up to leave, a coworker pulled me aside. "Emily, you should see this." She handed me her phone. On the screen was a fundraising page. My photo sat at the top, smiling in a headshot I'd once used for work. The caption read, "Help this family recover after their daughter abandoned them." The story below was twisted into a sob story about medical bills and betrayal, donations. We're already climbing into the hundreds. I stared at my own face, sold to strangers as the villain. My hands trembled, not from weakness, but from the realization. This wasn't just family drama anymore. They had turned me into a commodity, and the whole internet was buying it. Silence wasn't peace. It was planning. For almost a week, the messages stopped. No calls, no voicemails dripping with guilt. The quiet felt strange, but part of me wanted to believe it was over. Then my sister texted one short line. "Dinner. Just us. No drama." I stared at it for a long time. A trap, maybe. But curiosity won. If they wanted a face-to-face, I would sit across from her and hear it myself. We met at a small diner on the edge of town, the kind with flickering neon and sticky booths. She was already there, 2 menus open, smiling like nothing had ever happened. "Emily," she said brightly, "it's time to move on. We're family." I sat, arms folded. "Say what you came to say." She sighed, setting down her phone like she was serious. "Look, Mom and Dad are a mess. Collectors are calling every day, but we can fix it together. One more signature. Just a bridge loan. Then it's done." "No." Her smile flickered, then returned. "You don't understand. They could lose the house." "I told you already, I'm not your safety net." The waitress brought coffee. We sat in silence while steam curled between us. Then my sister leaned in closer, voice sharp. "You think your boyfriend is going to stick around when he sees what a selfish brat you are? When he finds out you let your parents go homeless?" I didn't answer. I pulled my bag onto the table and slid out a folder. Her eyes narrowed. "What's that?" "Copies," I said. "Bank letters, insurance statements, the police report about my car. Everything you pretend doesn't exist." Her hand twitched toward the folder, but I pulled it back. "You can't twist me into this anymore." Her face darkened. "Then you'll regret it." She tossed a napkin across the table. Something was folded inside. I opened it. A receipt. My name at the top. My signature at the bottom. A loan I had never seen. "Where did you get this?" I demanded. She smirked. "Proof. Mom says you owe more than you think. You can fight us, but paper doesn't lie." The forged signatures stared back at me, each stroke sloppy but dangerous. They hadn't just tried to guilt me, they were fabricating debts in my name. I shoved the receipt into my bag, stood up, and dropped cash for the coffee on the table. "We're done here." "Emily," she started, but I was already walking out, my heart pounding. The night air hit me cold. My phone buzzed with a new notification. A link. I opened it and froze. It was a fundraiser. My photo at the top. The caption read, "Help this family survive after their daughter abandoned them." And the donations were climbing by the minute. This wasn't reconciliation. It had never been dinner. It was strategy. They weren't just pulling me into the past. They were building a case to bury me. I didn't hear it from them. I saw it on my partner's co-worker's phone. He slid it across the table during lunch like it was just another link, but the address stopped me cold. My parents' house, my childhood home, listed on Zillow. Pre-foreclosure. Cash offers only. The photos showed empty rooms, the kitchen gutted of the stainless appliances I had bought, the living room bare where my furniture once stood. Their world was collapsing, and this time, I wasn't holding it up. I hadn't lifted a finger. I hadn't called the bank, hadn't spoken a word against them. I had simply stepped away, and the structure crumbled without me. That evening, my phone lit with a message from a cousin I hadn't seen in years. She wrote about my father's health, about winter being too hard on him, about time running out. Her words were polished, like a script rehearsed. I read them twice and closed the app. If he was sick, he was sick. If he wasn't, then the sickness was the lie itself. Either way, it wasn't my role to fix, but they had found another angle. 2 mornings later, my partner stood in the doorway with his phone still in hand. His face told me before his voice did. My sister had contacted his HR department, insisting he reconsider living with me, the daughter who abandoned her parents. The words stung less than the method. She wasn't just trying to shame me. She was trying to strip me of the one anchor I had left. I told myself it would end there. It didn't. That afternoon, she appeared in person. When I arrived at his building, the lobby felt charged like static before a storm. A cluster of co-workers stood near the front desk. My sister was in the center, dressed as though she were auditioning for respectability, speaking loud enough for every phone camera to catch each syllable. She wasn't talking to him. She was talking to the room, weaving her story of a daughter gone rotten, a family abandoned, parents left to wither. I didn't answer her. Not there. Not for that audience. Security intervened before I could take another step, guiding her toward the exit while she smiled like the martyr she wanted them to see. She left behind a lobby buzzing with whispers and glances, each one a reminder of how far she would go. That night, the silence in our apartment was thick but steady. My partner didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. His presence was enough. When I finally opened my laptop, a new email waited. Legal notice. Immediate action required. The letterhead was crisp. the language heavy, stacked with threats. Wage garnishment, liens, court filings. It claimed I was still bound to debts, that removals had failed, that payment was owed. For minutes I sat frozen, pulse loud in my ears. The letter was designed to scare, and for a moment it succeeded. Then training took over. The discipline I had built in secret over months. I pulled out the folder, the one I had filled with every stamped confirmation, every letter, from banks and credit unions. I checked line by line. My name had been removed. My obligations were closed. I forwarded the email to my attorney. His reply came swift. Not a registered firm, not enforceable, nothing more than a dressed-up threat. Relief came, but not calm. Because this wasn't random. It was escalation. Each step had grown bolder. Guilt, sabotage, public humiliation, now forged law. They weren't stumbling anymore. They were building. I printed the email, slid it into the folder, and locked it away. The room was dark except for the laptop's glow. Sleep never came. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the email header floating in the dark, its threat sharper than any shout. It wasn't the letter itself that kept me awake. It was what came after, the silence that followed, the knowledge that they were already at work on whatever would come next. When begging failed, they tried something darker. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind that should have felt ordinary. My partner and I had just returned from a quiet weekend, grocery bags still in our hands, when I noticed the black sedan parked across the street. My father's car, the same one I once helped him repair, now waiting like a sentry. Minutes later came the knock. I opened the door to find them standing together, my mother cradling a cardboard box as though it were holy. She lifted the lid for me to see. Kindergarten drawings folded at the edges, birthday cards yellowed with time, trinkets from a bedroom I had long since emptied. "We're not here to fight," she said quickly. "We just miss our daughter." Behind her, my father's silence was heavier than any word. I didn't reach for the box. Her voice softened. "One more signature, Emily, that's all. Just until we're steady again." That word, just, rang like a bell I'd heard all my life. Just one more favor, just until payday, just until the business recovers. Every just had cost me pieces of myself. I stepped back from the doorway. No. My tone was even, almost gentle, but it closed the conversation like a slammed gate. They hadn't expected refusal without drama. My father's jaw clenched. My mother's eyes brimmed, but the tears carried no weight. When the door shut, their box of memories remained outside, like an orphan. Later that night, restless, I opened Zillow again. Their house was still listed. Cash offers only, pre-foreclosure stamped in bold. No mention of the granite counters, the washer and dryer, the furniture I had carried inside when they swore the business was turning around. To the market, it was nothing but a distressed property, stripped bare. And in a way, so were they. But collapse wasn't enough. They needed a stage. 2 days later, a coworker sent me a link. I clicked and froze. My sister was live, framed by the glow of her phone. Tears streaked down her cheeks, her voice breaking at rehearsed intervals. She spoke of medical crises, unpaid bills, and a daughter who had abandoned her family. She never said my name, but she didn't need to. Comments poured in. Donations ticked upward. Sympathy bought with lies. "Please," she whispered to the camera. "If only she would come home, things could be different." I closed the stream before rage could consume me. To respond would be to play her game, but I felt the sting immediately. That evening, a colleague pulled me aside at work. "Emily," she said carefully, "I saw something online. Is everything okay?" They had crossed another line. They weren't just humiliating me to strangers. They were planting doubt in the lives I had built apart from them. That night, I locked down everything I could. Passwords, accounts, security questions. I told myself I was safe. Then came the ping. A notification glowed on my phone. Credit inquiry alert. Your name was used too. Attempt a new account. I sat frozen, groceries half unpacked on the counter, the silence of the apartment pressing in. It wasn't a bill this time. It wasn't a plea. It was my name, my identity, the last currency I still owned, and someone had tried to spend it. The ending wasn't loud. There was no courtroom scene, no public meltdown, no dramatic finale in a driveway. It was quieter than all of that, yet sharper, more permanent. It began with paperwork. For weeks, I had been collecting documents, highlighting signatures, rehearsing explanations. I walked into banks and credit unions with a folder so thick the seams strained. One by one, I sat across from officials who barely looked up until I placed everything on their desks. "I want my name removed," I said. Calm, direct, not asking, stating. They typed, they verified, they nodded. "Your name is no longer on this account." A stamp hit the page. "Your obligations here are closed." Another signature line cleared, another chain cut. Each appointment was mechanical, but inside me something shifted. It wasn't joy. It was release. Every time I left an office, I walked out lighter, as if invisible ropes had been cut from my shoulders. By the time the final form was signed, I stepped into late afternoon light and felt the air hit me like I was breathing for the first time in years. No confetti, no applause, just silence. And silence had never sounded so good. That night, instead of sending another emergency transfer to keep their collapsing lives afloat, I opened my phone and sent $200 to a local women's shelter, a place that gave beds, meals, and hope to people escaping their own traps. The money was small but symbolic. It was no longer theirs to drain. It was finally mine to give where it mattered. The weeks that followed carried a kind of rhythm I had never known. I saw my paycheck stretch the whole month. No sudden withdrawals from joint accounts, no urgent midnight texts demanding cash, no unexpected bills tied to signatures I never gave. My partner and I built an ordinary life, the kind I used to think belonged only to other people. Rent split fairly, meals cooked side by side, grocery store debates over brands of pasta, laughter at burnt dinners. It was mundane, but it was safe. And safe felt extraordinary. Therapy carved space I didn't know I needed. I sat across from someone who didn't flinch when I admitted what I had hidden for years, that love in my family had always been conditional, that guilt was their leash, that my worth was measured in FICO scores and bailout transfers. My therapist didn't tell me to forgive or to forget. She asked instead, "What did it cost you to keep them happy?" The answer came slowly, but it came. It cost me myself. With every session, I peeled away layers of guilt I had carried like a second skin. I learned that boundaries are not cruelty, that saying no is not betrayal, that love without respect is not love. At work, the changes showed, too. I was no longer exhausted from crises that weren't mine. I gave my energy fully to projects, spoke up in meetings, let myself be seen. When the promotion came, it was more than a new title. It was proof that what they drained from me was still mine to use. A corner office, a team that trusted me, a paycheck that finally felt like acknowledgement instead of survival. Meanwhile, their world contracted. The house appeared on Zillow. Cash offers only, pre-foreclosure. No mention of the granite countertops I had once paid for, or the washer I installed when they swore things were turning around. To strangers, it was just another distressed property. To me, it was evidence. Without me, their empire collapsed. My sister's live stream scams fizzled once donations dried. My parents scraped by on odd jobs. The whispers reached me, but I didn't chase them. Their lives shrank, while mine expanded, and I realized something that settled deep inside me. True family revenge isn't watching them suffer. It isn't laughing as they stumble. It isn't mocking their collapse. True revenge is living a life beyond their reach. It's knowing peace isn't a pause between crises. It's the whole story. It's understanding that boundaries are louder than sacrifice. It's choosing self-preservation over performance. It's refusing to confuse obligation with love. Forgiveness? Maybe one day. But forgiveness is not a rope. It isn't theirs to demand. If it ever comes, it will be on my terms, not theirs. So I let go. Months blurred. Silence became normal. I stopped checking blocked lists. I stopped bracing when unknown numbers lit up my phone. I stopped expecting their car to idle outside like a threat. Life grew smaller in demands, bigger in meaning. One night, folding laundry under the hum of the dryer, my phone buzzed. A single text slipped through. "We need you." 3 words. The same 3 words that had bound me my entire life. I stared until the screen dimmed. Then I set the phone down, folded another shirt, and kept going. I never answered, because this was the real ending. I finalized every financial tie. I donated where money actually healed. I built a steady life with someone who loved me without conditions. I sat in therapy and reclaimed my voice. I earned a promotion that reflected my effort, not their debt. And in all of it, I understood. The best revenge is not fire. It's not their destruction. It's refusing to burn with them. True family revenge isn't destroying them. It's building a life beyond them. Boundaries, self-preservation, and peace are stronger than sacrifice. And if forgiveness ever arrives, it will be mine to give freely, never theirs to demand. Before I close this chapter, I want to ask you something. I really want to know where this story travels to on Earth. Leave a comment and tell me the city you're in. Don't forget to subscribe. One small act of support from you is a huge motivation for me to make more meaningful videos. Thank you for being here and listening. Because if my story proves anything, it's this. You don't have to keep bleeding just because someone calls it family. And when you finally walk away, the silence that follows isn't loss, it's freedom.